This video is brought to you by MoviePalette.com. Hey everyone, do you have a favorite movie that you would love to hang on your wall but you can't think of what scene or what poster to get? Well, now you can get the entire movie on one high quality canvas. With MoviePalette.com, you can get every scene from your favorite movie, or more specifically, the dominant color of every scene from your favorite movie in chronological order on a great high quality canvas. It also comes with a silver engraving of the title down at the bottom. It has rubber stoppers on the back to keep it from bouncing. And they have a huge catalog of what to choose from. Whether you're a horror fan, or a fan of sci-fi, Marvel, Japanese anime, Disney animation, drama, or Oscar classics, there's a movie palette for you. Right now, MoviePalette.com is having a sale for 50% off for their Halloween sale. But if you go right now, and if you enter room 15, you'll get 15% off of the movie palette of your choice. That's ROOM15 for 15% off of your movie palette. Again, this is a great value for a great piece of home decor that looks great for any film and for any film buff and anywhere in your home. You will definitely like this product. Mine is of The Shining, and I could not be happier with it. So definitely go to MoviePalette.com and enter ROOM15 for 15% off of your palette. Hey everyone, welcome back to Room 237, back with another review. As I continue my month of October run through of Stephen King film adaptations, and this one's going to be kind of different because where it is October and I am going through Stephen King films, I'm mostly sticking to his horror adaptations. That's what he's known for, and it's October. But this is a film I really wanted to see again because even though I've seen the whole film, I've never actually seen it start to finish in one sitting. It used to play on cable all the time when I was a kid, and I've always caught different sections of it and had seen the whole film, just not together in one experience. It's one I've always liked, and I believe this is one that's kind of underrated. I mean, it's really liked by people that have seen it. It was a sleeper hit. It had a small budget, grossed a decent amount of money, but it didn't get the accolades that I think it deserved. People don't really talk about it now, especially in terms of Stephen King or even Stephen King dramas. And it's a story I've always liked, and I really just wanted to see the whole thing in its entirety at once, finally. So this is one I picked up for the month of October, and again, only non-horror one I'll probably do this month. I might get to other ones at another time, but this is the 1995 film Dolores, Claiborne, which is based on I believe it's the 1990 novel or 92? 1992 novel of the same name, which I have not read the book yet, but I do know it's all told as like a first-person recollection. And the books especially are considered sister books or companion pieces. This in Gerald's Game. I know that the film adaptation of Gerald's Game makes mention of this story. I don't think this mentions Gerald's Game or Jesse or anything, but it is still very much, a companion story. It does deal with, past traumas, especially dealing with incestuous child molestation, which trigger warning ahead of time, and kind of coming to terms with your past. I will say I think this is a better film than Gerald's Game. Of course, that's a horror film. This one is not. It is a lot of different things. I mean, it's a drama. It's a melodrama. Definitely a psychological thriller. It kind of has the sort of crime mystery structure of a classic noir film. It has elements of like a gothic drama or a gothic melodrama, Roger Ebert called it a horror film. I mean, it does show the horrors of life. I mean, what these two women went through are very horrific. But um, it has been seen as one of the most true feminist films ever made. It is a very powerful. I mean, if you want to look at it that way, it is very powerful, very well done in that respect. It doesn't feel pandering. It's not like a feminist film made nowadays. This is a powerhouse film in every way. This is definitely a top 10 Stephen King film, a top 10 favorite of mine. Glad I finally got to see it all the way through. Now, it was directed by Taylor Hackford, who also directed films like An Officer and a Gentleman, Ray, and The Devil's Advocate, which I really do like The Devil's Advocate. Screenplay by Tony Gilroy, stars Kathy Bates, Jennifer Jason Leigh, David Strathairn, if I pronounce that correctly, Judy Parfitt, Christopher Plummer, and brief appearances by Eric Bogosian and a young appearance by John C. Reilly. Now, of course, this is one of those dramas where the main accent is kind of grating. Even by Kathy Bates, the main accent can be a little David Strathairn's accent is a bit over the top. But the movie is just so well done and is so powerful that you kind of don't even notice it. If it was a lesser film, then it would be super grating. But it is one of those movies where the main accent is kind of... It was filmed in Nova Scotia, but it really looks like Maine. Gabriel Beristain did the cinematography, and Danny Elfman did the music. It was considered a sleeper hit because there was not much marketing and $13 million budget, and it grossed between 45 and 50 million. So it was a decent hit. Didn't really make much of a splash when it came to nominations or awards, which is a crime because Kathy Bates should have at the very least been nominated for this. Kathy Bates, my favorite actress, number one favorite actress, has been since I first saw Misery. I would say Annie Wilkes is still my favorite role and performance of hers, but this is a very close second. When it comes to the non-horror Stephen King dramas, I would put this over Green Mile. I think Green Mile is a little overrated. It is neck and neck with Shawshank. They're both very powerful films, but in very different ways. And really, at the center of this film, it is about a mother and daughter after a strained a strained relationship, but they haven't seen each other in 15 years, having to come together because of this question about a murder that the mother may or may not be responsible for. And due to their past traumas and the realization of their past traumas, they're able to reconcile. And it's a powerful story. A lot of it's told through flashbacks, but the flashbacks are pretty seamless. They don't feel heavy or they don't wear out their welcome. They don't feel like padding, or it doesn't feel like it's over-explaining. All the flashbacks really feel like they need to be there, and they're all effective. There are some cool transitions into the flashbacks, which present day, it's very bland, drab, like gray, overcast, and cold looking. Whereas 1975 which is 18 years ago. This takes place so it must be 93. So 75, it's very sunny, the colors are more vibrant. And even when it's not a full flashback, but you have like a character sitting at the table, and across the room she sees a flashback. It does a good job at blending those two different color styles without it being too out of place. It has a lot of Brian De Palma-esque split screens and dual focus. There's one transition where she goes to like break a window with the hatchet, and we see CGI, but the glass like spider web with her reflection. Then as it falls, we get the flashback behind it. So the flashback sequences are heavy, but they're needed and they all work. Basically, the story is it opens up with the elderly Dolores Claiborne, played by Bates. And Bates has said this is her favorite performance that she's ever done. And she is incredible in it. Very different from Annie Wilkes. This is more of her, I think, the kind of role she is known for, which is that kind of loudmouth, fast-talking, cynical sarcasm type of performance that I love seeing her in. But it opens up with her employer. She's the 24-hour caretaker of this very miserly, very old rich woman. She falls down the stairs. She grabs a rolling pin to finish her off. That's when the mailman comes in. And the mailman is played by... He was the gas station attendant in the first two Wrong Turns. He was in the Goosebumps episode, Bride of the Living Dummy. Wayne Robson, that's his name. He walks in just as she's raising the rolling pin. So she's questioned in the murder. They send out for her daughter Selena, played by Jennifer Jason Leigh. This is probably, I mean, she's also one of my favorite actresses, and it is hard because I loved her in The Hitcher. I loved her in The Hateful Eight. She's great in this. She's a reporter in New York. They send out for her. She comes both for the story, but also to help out her mother. They have a very strained relationship. And her daughter's trying to help her, but this older, a detective, Mackie, played by, I believe that's Christopher Plummer. Yeah. He is doing everything he can to figure her for the murder of her wealthy employer. Because there was another death some 18 years prior that he tried to get her for that he was unable to. And that was the death of her husband, Joe, played by David Strathern, or Strathairn. I can never remember how to pronounce his name. That's basically the story. And Claiborne's kind of known around this small island town, which is not Castle Rock. I always thought it was a Castle Rock story. But Little Tall Island, I believe is the name of where it takes place. She's just kind of known as just this old woman that got away with murder. You know, they vandalize her house, they drive by, scream obscenities at her. And Kathy Bates is just so convincing and wonderful as just this take no bullshit, you know, just being a bitch. And the whole movie really is, I mean, there's two mottos that kind of recur throughout the film, which is, one of them is actually the tagline, not on the DVD, but sometimes an accident can be an unhappy woman's best friend, and sometimes being a bitch is all a woman has left to hold on to. Those are really huge themes as to who Dolores is, where she is at the end of the film, and kind of what the whole movie's about. And these flashbacks show not only what happened, the history and what happened to her wealthy employer, but also what really happened with her husband. It was ruled as death by accident, but Selena, the whole town, Detective Mackie believe that she was guilty of her husband, so now they're really trying to get her for this other murder. And through the flashbacks, we just see all the trauma that she went through with her emotionally and physically abusive husband, with just her very dictator-like employer who is like one of the most prideful, like female Scrooge bitch characters I think I've ever seen, played wonderfully by Judy Parfitt. And it all comes together at the end where we find out everything. And the way it's presented, which I'm not going to give it away, I am going to give a spoiler warning because even though it's well received, I think this is underseen, again, especially in the world of Stephen King. I think this one is overlooked. And, I mean, if you can watch a King drama or any drama, something like Shawshank, which is very character-driven, as this is, then I think you'll like this. But if you go into a Stephen King film expecting it, or expecting The Shining, or, expecting something like that every time, then you'll be disappointed. But, I mean, the performances really make this film. This is like like one of those actors' films, like an actor's dream type film. Bates is phenomenal. Jennifer Jason Leigh is great. I really love the story, where even if you take out the themes of repressed memories and trauma and abuse of various kinds, and just look at sort of the bare structure of a woman that was believed to have murdered her husband, and then 18 years later believed to have killed her wealthy employer, with money being a motive in both, or there is motives that people can see in both cases, and kind of her having to prove herself, or her daughter having to prove her even though she doesn't really believe. It's a very interesting story. And, it has the atmosphere. This movie feels cold. You really just feel the drab, just overcast gloominess of the present day scenes, and the vibrant colors and the very sunny look of the flashbacks look great. The transitions are very well done. I really like the Brian De Palma dual focus split screen scenes. And this is one of those rare King films like Cujo or Shawshank where nothing's supernatural. It's all just about sort of the horrors of real life. And yes, also like Gerald's Game, the events of the traumatic events of the past happen during an eclipse. Like, the eclipse is really kind of the backdrop of the traumas of the past. Not necessarily the scenes that feature child molestation, as it was in Gerald's Game, but, and even though I won't go too heavy into that, like Gerald's Game, this is one of the most realistic and therefore effective scenes of child molestation I've seen. Now, it's not graphic, it's mostly implied, but it's not done for shock value, it's not done in an exploitative way. It is done through a flashback with, the character standing there as she realizes it, and the look on her face and the look on, past character's face shows a lot. The way it just, like, well, I was going to save it for spoilers, but yeah. I don't know if tasteful or respectful are the right words, but like with Gerald's Game, that is how it's presented. It's mostly implied, but it's not done in a shocking or exploitative manner. Very realistic and to the point. And it has a pretty powerful ending. It really is just about this mother-daughter sort of just coming to terms with their past and finally reconciling. And it's a powerful movie. It's a great movie. It's a shame it's as underseen or not as recognized as it should be. Definitely a top 10 favorite Stephen King film for me. Now, I haven't read the book, so I don't know how close of an adaptation it is. I know King at one point said this is in his top 10, but nowadays he praises everyone that comes out, so I don't know if that's still on there. But highly recommend it. Again, as far as King's non-horror films, it's neck and neck with Shawshank. I'd put it over The Green Mile. Can't really compare it to Stand By Me because that's a really fun coming of age film, and this is a very serious, somber, dark, more psychological drama thriller. But highly recommend it. Getting into spoilers. So I like how when the film opens, we just see a silhouette on the wall of the struggle with her and Vera before she falls down the stairs. It even looks to the viewer that maybe she did throw this old lady down the stairs. But we see through flashbacks that her husband Joe, which also the scenes of abuse, like when he hits her, it's very done in very realistic, but not done for shock or violence. I mean, it is violent, but done in just a very matter-of-factly way. It just shows how Selena, who was a very kind of happy, peppy with pigtails girl around the house, eventually she becomes more and more just unkempt, withdrawn, and that's when Dolores realizes, I think my husband's been touching her, so that she confides in her elderly employer, which even the scenes with her employer, when she just talks about how much of a dictator she was of the house, they really do kind of make it look like sort of the Shawshank of the maid world, which Shawshank is referenced in this. That's when she confides in her, and that's when she says, husbands die every day, and that's when you get the line, sometimes an accident is a woman's best friend, an unhappy woman's best friend, because several of her husbands have died, and it implies that she had them killed or at least orchestrated their deaths. So during the eclipse, she gets Joe drunk because she's been putting part of her paycheck away every week for Selena's school. She finds out Joe's been able to withdraw it, but pretty much she finds a well and is able to get, as seen on the cover here, it's revealed that she got him drunk, told that she knows about the money being taken out, but she got it back, how he's touching their daughter. He chases her, she jumps over the hole because she had found it previously, and he falls in it. I know in the book he doesn't die right away, but it also does a good job at just establishing how people can see the motives because they know about everything with the bank and money. Also how the daughter, Selena, went away to work at this hotel for a while. No one was going to be on the island because of the eclipse. They're all going to be out on their boat. And again, that's more towards the end of the film, but these flashbacks are interwoven pretty consistently throughout the entire film. But probably the most powerful flashback is because Dolores finds out that Selena does not remember anything about their past, except that, okay, he was a drunk. Maybe he hit you. According to you, that's what he did. I remember you hitting him. I don't remember anything else. But then I remember the search parties and, him being found on the property. And, yeah, I always thought you did it. She presents, he touched you. She freaks out. She leaves. And Jennifer Jason Leigh does a good job at playing, also a broken a woman. it alludes that she's on a bunch of medicine for anxiety, depression, and she's like barely hanging on this whole movie. She's not happy to be there with this mother, her mother that she thinks killed her father, and hasn't seen in 15 years. So she has to take the ferry back to the mainland. But when she's on the ferry, that's when she has the flashback of her father touching her, making her perform something on him. But the way the flashback is done, and this is really the first time in the film that it's the only flashback that's not told through the POV of Dolores. So therefore she can be seen as like an unreliable narrator because everything is her account, it's kind of her word. But now, Selena having this flashback only solidifies everything we've seen through Dolores, and we are now on board with her innocence at the same time that Selena is, or at least completely. But also, the performance of Lee with her realization as she's seeing this flashback, and the look on the face of young Selena, Ellen Muth, if I pronounce that correctly. I mean, when she's performing on her father, just that vacant look, like she just shut down, almost like her memory stopped working. From what I've read in like psychology books, that does happen. So again, it's a very powerfully realistic interpretation of just that kind of thing. And again, everything else we've seen of Joe has been Dolores's account. So now we're fully on board. And then you get probably the best scene in the movie, which is when, that's when she realizes, everything my mother said has been true. And she races back down to the courthouse when she's, about to have the statement signed, to have it go to a grand jury. And she shows up and defends her tooth and nail. And it's really, this is when Jennifer Jason Leigh gets to step up and steal the screen. Because Kathy Bates is just sitting there letting her do her thing. And it's really a battle between her and Christopher Plummer, who was the head detective in the case of her husband. He really wanted to get her for that, but it was ruled as suicide. So now he's just trying to get her for this, even though all the evidence is circumstantial, which it goes over that in the film. The mailman shows up every day. Why would she wait till the afternoon? If it was an accident, why would she have to ransack the kitchen for a rolling pin? I mean, it's all there. And, if this was anyone but a Dolores Claiborne, would it have been ruled as a suicide? You're only doing this out of a grudge. And, I can promise you if it goes to trial, it's going to end in a mistrial or an acquittal. Because the motive is really, you find out that the employer left her $1.6 million fortune to her, but she didn't know about it, even though the will was 8 years old. There's a lot of stuff going on in this, but it is done very well. All the details are there to, I can't really think of any plot holes or anything. It's all there, very well thought out, very detailed, but the performances are really what sell this movie, or really what make it work. It make it more engrossing than it already is. Because the story's already very engrossing, but the characters and the performances really, drive it home. And I can see why this is seen as a feminist film. I mean, yeah, there is that thing about if this was anybody else, would you have ruled it as a suicide? Which is more of a personal grudge than it is a misogynist thing. But there is a scene where younger Dolores is in the bank wondering how the husband can withdraw all that money without her passbook. And she says, is it because I'm a woman? If I tried to do what he did, would you have called Joe, first thing? And, I love the structure of it, that we don't find out the full truth until the very end. The only weird scene that's kind of stylish, other than some of the flashback transitions, is after Selena has her uh, repressed memory flashback, she goes in the bathroom to splash her face. And when she looks up, her reflection is back too, which I always thought was weird. But watching it again, I interpreted that as she's finally caught up to her past. She's finally caught up to everything that was put behind her. That's what I took it as. But great story. I love the story. Just this poor, broken a woman who, really has no one or nothing in life except for this very rich woman. They act like they hate each other, but they're really all that they have. And just really being backed into a corner and having to really fight her way out of it, because she was in the corner with her husband. She orchestrated his accidental death, but then she was backed into a corner by everybody else. It was ruled as an accident. She had this very strict boss. And then, she killed herself, and then there's, the will and money that looks like a motive, so she's backed into a corner again. But now everyone's already against her because of things in the past. It's a very strong, powerful, well-done movie. And I know this review's kind of been all over the place and very repetitive. This might be a movie you kind of have to stew in a bit and really think about it. I just got done watching it, but definitely one of my top 10 favorite Stephen King films. Definitely my second favorite performance by Kathy Bates, my favorite actress. Very close behind Misery, but yeah, definitely one of the best Stephen King films. It's a shame it doesn't get the recognition it deserves, but I still highly recommend it. So yeah, that's probably going to be the only non-horror King film I'll do, at least during this month. Maybe I'll get to Shawshank, Green Mile, Stand By Me, etc. at some other point. But I really wanted to do that because I wanted to go back and see it, because I've always liked the story. And I love this film. But that is Stephen King's Dolores Claiborne, and thank you for watching.